Judge Jeanine Pirro is one of the craziest Fox News hosts, and that says quite a bit because almost all of them are insane. So she is going to talk about her issue or issues with President Biden's new budget proposal, and you couldn't make this stuff up if you tried. If I were to tell you that she said this, you would think I'm strawmanning her. I'm not. Look at what her biggest issues are.
It's good to have you on this Friday. Hey, what do you make of the fact that Joe Biden, you know, he's going to unveil a $6 trillion budget today, spending a lot of money that we don't have, and it's going to cost a lot going forward for future generations. But he says we really need it. We got to continue to pull ourselves out of the pandemic and so much more. What do you say to, if the president was watching and listening to you, what would you say?
Well, I say, are you stupid? I mean, first of all, we're on the heels of inflation, number one. Number two, there's so much money into the economy right now that people don't want to go to work because Joe Biden is giving them so much money that they'd rather stay home than go to work. But what has really got my goat here is we're talking about $400 billion in health care, okay, and all of the infrastructure that he talks about, which is really a social services safety net.
So her idea of arguing against the bill is to cite the good parts of the bill as if they're bad. By the way, this shows how little they know about politics, because the fact of the matter is Joe Biden's not going to get any of this through, because you need 60 votes for regular order. They're nowhere near that. And if you don't do regular order, you can do reconciliation with 51 votes. And we heard the other day that Democrats are giving up until the earliest August when it comes to any new reconciliation packages. So this whole conversation is moot anyway. So she doesn't even understand that they're talking about these things, but they're not really pushing for them and trying to get them. So that's the first point. They don't know about politics, but look at her arguments. So she says, oh, spending this much money is bad because we're on the heels of inflation. Inflation was 4%. We had deflation last year. So having the inflation of 4% means we're exactly where we were supposed to be if we didn't have the deflation last year. So the inflation point is ridiculous. People don't want to work because they're getting so much money. The unemployment rate was 6%, and then it ticked up to 6.1%. Does that sound like people don't want to work because they're getting so much money? Is that what that sounds like to you? And by the way, even if that was the case, I would support it. You want to know why? Because now people are rethinking what they actually want to do with their lives. And Jeanine Pirro would rather force you back into a low-wage job that you hate and tell you to shut the fuck up and do it. Again, they're making my life so easy because they make the worst possible arguments for their position. Then she says her biggest issue with it is the $400 billion in healthcare. Imagine your biggest issue being $400 billion in healthcare. The grossest part of this budget is that there's money for healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. Ridiculous and gross. Who says that? Who believes that? Jeanine Pirro does. And then she attacks, quote, infrastructure, which is really a social services safety net. I like infrastructure and I like safety nets. Wonderful. How quickly they flip. Because the fact of the matter is, Trump said he was for $2,000 checks. Trump did over a $2 trillion COVID package. Nobody made a peep about inflation or big spending or people getting so much money. So they're just partisan hacks, and they went right back to this hardcore Ayn Rand style, laissez-faire capitalism, small government libertarian style arguments, when previously they were pretending like they were somewhat populist under Trump because Trump was in favor of bigger spending. So they're complete hacks. They're all total hacks. This is such a great example of it. But listen, if she wants to make these sorts of arguments, it makes my life so much easier because they're the worst arguments I've ever heard. Complaining about inflation when inflation is not a major issue. Saying people don't want to work because they're getting so much money. Oh, what a terrible thing that regular people are getting money. Pfft, disgusting. Complaining about $400 billion in healthcare and complaining about infrastructure and the social safety net. I mean, I view those things on their face as good. And she brings them up and is like, ugh, gross. Okay, well, I'm going to win that argument 10 out of 10 times with the broader public. Because unless you're already totally brainwashed and have totally drunk the right-wing Kool-Aid, you're going to hear those things and say, that seems like it'll help me. I like it.